If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PWZ. As you can see, Andy Nichols, the Greenport Destroyer, is making out with the camera screen. This is Rick Del Santo, I believe. I don't know if this is correct, but this is episode number 84, maybe. So, there's lots of action happening in the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, there is. There is, yes. Mr. Dos Equis. How are you?
Mr. Dos Equis. Okay. That's Mexican.
I know, you're the Latin heartthrob, aren't you?
I thought that was Al, was that Al Madrill or was that Al Perez?
Al Perez, I think.
Al Perez was the
Madrill wasn't that good looking, I don't think.
Well, did you see that ponytail that was like this long on Al Madrill back in the day? So, have you turned on Monday Night Raw?
No, I actually, I have to say, I'm one of the few people who normally do watch Monday Night Raw, but now that we're recording on Monday nights and I've joined the PWZ podcast, and I also forgot how to speak. Monday Night Raw is off my radar now. Thank you, Rick.
I just turned it on for the first time. I don't normally watch it. I try sometimes. It's just very difficult to get through sometimes. It really is, and it's pretty sad because for a very long time, this was like a staple of my television viewing for years and years and years and years. And it's just like, it's gotten to that period where it's just very hard to sit through 3 hours. It's not like they expand it by having better matches. They just put on longer, more boring matches, so to say.
Well, it's funny, too, because if you look at SmackDown the last, month or two, SmackDown has really kind of found its stride. It's hit its stride. It's got some strong storylines. And Raw's just still kind of bumbling and fumbling around, trying to... I mean, they have a few really good things. I think the Hurt Business is really good on there. I've enjoyed their feud with... I guess you call it a feud with New Day, because, now feuds only last 3 weeks, and you move on to the next thing. You don't build it up too much anymore. It's interesting. I mean, if you saw the pay-per-view the other night... TLC, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander are tag team champions. And I want to talk about that because I like what they're doing with Cedric. I'm a Cedric Alexander guy anyway. I loved him in Ring of Honor. I used to see him down here with Steve Carino's PWF in North Carolina. Have really cool guys. His I think then girlfriend, now wife, Big Swole, used to be at the shows with their baby girl. So really cool. At the PWF shows. So it's really great to see him getting the push because I thought Ring of Honor dropped the ball with him. Mm-hmm. And WWE dropped the ball with him, let's be honest. But then, he got involved with the Hurt Business and MVP. And while everybody was bashing the Hurt Business, saying it's a bunch of old guys trying to, find a new way to get themselves over, what we're starting to see now is that really it's a vehicle for Cedric to get over. Maybe that wasn't the plan, but it's turning into that.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but during his time working for Northeast Wrestling, he wrestled recent guest, Paradise Alley Intercontinental Champion, Bull Dread, a couple times.
My man, Bull Dread.
Yeah, yep. And those matches, I believe, are... on YouTube, if you want to check them out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. I'll have to send them your way. They're entertaining. I think that he put it over the first time he was on here. So Bull's actually wrestled. He was an honorary member of the NWO one evening as well.
Can I
go ahead?
Can I tell you a funny Cedric story? Actually, it's Cedric was involved, so I'll say it's a Cedric story. I don't want to say the other guy's name, but there was another local wrestler who worked for PWF, which again was owned by Steve Carino, and down here in North Carolina. And he used to hold shows at this small little bingo hall. Very small, very intimate crowd, small town. But it was, the crowd was, the crowd was invested, and Cedric was then the champion. He was the PWF champion at the time, and they had a local guy whose name I won't say. And the local guy, I guess he had a lot of family come out for the show. Okay, only problem is, this is crazy to think this. It was probably 2015, maybe 2016. It's crazy to think that he didn't clue them into the idea of kayfabe and that it's not real. And I think they said it was his aunt. There was a family member of his was literally like trying to climb the rail to go after Tommy Thomas and Cedric Alexander. And it was like, I'm gonna overstate it a little bit, but in my mind thinking back, it was like a little mini riot almost started because this guy never clued his family in on a story. And Cedric, you want to talk about a heel? I'm glad Cedric. I'm gonna shut up in a minute. I know. I'm glad Cedric got the heel push because I saw him as a heel champ down here, and he had heat like you wouldn't believe.
So his parents or family in 2015 were still unaware of
this other worker, not Cedric, the other guy. I think it was. I want to say it was like his aunt or his mom or something, and that's why I won't say the other guy's name because I don't want to embarrass him. I don't even know if he would be embarrassed. I don't even. But it was just it was crazy. It was a little tense at that moment. But looking back on it, it was just like one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
So one of the things you just made me think of prior to that. Besides that, rather, have you ever seen anything weird like that? I can name a particular incident. That I could think of where a fan decided that they went a little bit too far and decided to get involved or tried to get involved.
I think I told you about, and it's really not an exciting story, but I think I told you about the Bob Backlund. We talked about it with Lou Reardon, the Bob Backlund incident when a kid threw candy at him. And
right.
He stood in front of me at ringside for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, yelling for security to pull the kid out. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like right in front of him, like snapping pictures. And then he gets in the ring. Finally gets in the ring, and Tito Santana rolls him up 1, 2, 3. That was the whole entire match because Bob was so worried about this kid getting thrown out for throwing candy. There was another incident.
How much of that was a work?
No, I don't think. No, it wasn't a work.
Okay.
Yeah, because security did come, and like there was a kid basically, crapping his pants right at that moment. Behind me, thinking like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna get killed by this wrestler." I'm trying to think. I'll give you another one. I don't know if I should give that one. I got into it with Sir Mo. Yeah, I did because he called somebody I was with a black bitch or a monkey bitch or something. I know, right? And
wow.
And it was like somebody who wasn't a wrestling fan, wasn't into it, didn't deserve it, was just sitting there on her hands. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, plus you had that, defensive male thing. You know what I mean? We met backstage afterwards and made peace, but I just thought it was cheap heat at the time and whatever.
You mean Sir Mo from Men on a Mission?
Yeah. Now wow. If I'm the loud fan and I'm yelling in his face or whatever, say something to me about me. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you got somebody who doesn't even want to be, and you can relate to what I'm saying, somebody who doesn't even want to be there, who's not even a fan, who's just quietly sitting there like, oh, well, this thing get over already. Right. And then you say something, even if you are black yourself, you say something racial like that, and also, the bitch thing. It's like, come on, dude. It's like you overstep a little boundary there. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the things I want to bring up is that you remember when Slaughter was WWF champion?
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't Slaughter, was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, General Adnan and all.
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter was WWF champion at the time. He talks about this quite a bit. He's mentioned this story in shoot interviews a lot, and I was there for this, that he was wrestling. He was doing a loop with Ultimate Warrior where they were doing a steel cage match. and a fan in New Haven, Connecticut jumped the cage, and the Nasty Boys actually came out and made the save. in before security could. For some reason, they got out there before security could, and they pummeled this fucking dude before security pulled him out and arrested him. It actually made the newspapers, and this is, I know it's actually early '90s, so there was still somewhat, believability, or there was, kayfabe was somewhat still alive. It hadn't fully come out, but people were kind of aware, you know what I mean, at that time period. So it was kind of enjoyable to see that. And he actually mentioned it on Sean Mooney's podcast last year or something. It was pretty funny. It just brought back some pretty funny memories to actually be there in person when this happened.
Yeah, the Nasty Boys, they really were nasty boys. Like they didn't give a crap, dude. Like they were legit, like barroom brawler type of personalities. So I'm not surprised to hear that at all, really.
Yeah, they might have been green for pretty much their entire career, but they did beat the shit out of people. Hey. They weren't the greatest of workers, but I guess working with as brawlers, they were all right.
They did some good stuff in WCW with Cactus and Max Payne and Kevin Sullivan. The combination of those three.
Yeah, I enjoyed their WCW run.
But again, I mean, that's. I mean, I'm a New Jack fan too, and people say New Jack doesn't wrestle, so it's kind of, is it wrestling? Whatever. I don't know.
It's just it's mostly a disaster for the most part.
But is there anything else you wanted to, we started talking about the pay-per-view a little bit. I brought up Cedric. Did you want to talk anything more about the WWE pay-per-view or any comments? I mean, I know PWZ kind of covered it already, but.
We did an episode last night regarding it.
Right.
A full review. It was pretty much, the rating was in a negative. It was I thought it was the second worst pay-per-view of the year. A lot of people are saying that they think it's the better pay-per-view or one of the best of the year, and maybe they're watching a different show. I don't know, or maybe it's just I've just become so, what's the word? Maybe I've just become so opinionated that it's just not the style that I like, and that they're just a completely different product that they used to be. That it just doesn't do it for me. The lack of creativity. I did, the amount of the great talent that was on just the kickoff show itself, and then, those guys all should have been on the main show. I mean,
they have a bad habit of doing that, and I don't know why they do that. It's funny. It just goes to show you how much the business has changed, because we're not young guys, and we're not 20-year-old kids anymore, okay? Let's be honest, So let's go back 25 years ago, even 30 years ago, when we were younger, watching wrestling. What was the card like? You had your greenhorns early, you had your young guys trying to prove themselves early. Then it slowly progressed, almost like a ladder.
Right.
And then it would get a little better and a little better and a little better. And then you start getting into the title matches, the contenders match, then the title matches, the tag title, the mid card title, intercontinental, whatever it may be, U.S. title, and the heavyweight title.
You always had like the hot tag team match as the opener, or say the mid card guys like a Tito, or I hate to say a Kurt Hennig. Not that he was really mid card for that long, but you get what I'm saying. Two guys that could really work a great match would go on first and get that crowd riled up.
Well, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm referring to even before that, probably the 80s, when it would be the Greenhorns first. But you're right, because at some point with the advent of pay-per-view, they started realizing, hey, we got to start these shows off with something a little hotter to get people. So you'd see like like you said, a hot tag, like you see the Southern Boys against the Freebirds or something,
right? Something like that, or like the Rockers and whoever.
And Orient Express or something.
Yeah, exactly. That was...
Because they're going to put on a hot match. And even though Orient Express were essentially jobbers for the most part,
that's they put on a really good... Yeah, they never got the push that, say, they got as a tag team in, say, the AWA, the Orient Express.
But I thought they were... Go ahead. Finish your point. I'm sorry.
I thought they were a great team. It's just that's the difference, that you can go from one company to the other. And it's just you have to get the crowd riled up, and it turns into just WWE opens the shows now. There's always a kickoff match, and it's always the guys that should be on the main show. And then the first match, when the pay-per-view actually goes live, the pay-per-view portion, it's always a title match. It's always one of the two major singles titles, whether it's the WWE Championship or the Universal title, and it's just, why is that happening? It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's what I was gonna address. Is we're talking about the ordering of the card. So the pay-per-view last night, they start with after the quote unquote dark match,
Right.
which you can see on the network that you already subscribed to see the pay-per-view. But anyway, you go right to one of your top. Now I know you had 2 TLC matches, so you didn't want to do them back to back at the end.
Right. I get that.
But do I need to see Drew against AJ? Probably, potentially, arguably, the best match on the show on paper. Do I have to see that first? It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't, because, Drew has fought very hard to get to where he is, but then he's there. He's got the belt. It's supposed to be, pretty much the show's supposed to be surrounded around the guy with the belt, correct?
Right.
In a way. But he's opening the match. And I would mind you, these are 2 of the greatest workers probably in the world today, AJ and Drew. I mean, AJ has been for, the last 20 years or so. And it's just he's on the opening match. It makes no fucking sense to me. They put on a great match, don't get me wrong, but gimmick matches such as tables, ladders, and chairs, it's just... This is the first time they're wrestling each other. And usually a gimmick match is supposed to be the match that blows off the feud.
Yeah.
Whether it be tables, ladders, and chairs, steel cage, or a bull rope match, or whatever the fuck. Pardon my language. You get what I'm saying, though. It just doesn't make any sense that, and that's the second time they did that this year, where somebody would, or in the last year or so, where all of a sudden there's a feud and they go straight into the gimmick matches without actually a build-up. Usually there's a series, 2 matches, and then the gimmick match to blow off the feud. They also did it with, and I think I mentioned it last week or maybe last night, I don't remember. They did that with The Fiend and Seth. They just went straight into a Hell in a Cell without actually...
Sasha and Bailey, same thing.
Exactly. But that match I thought was what was that? Was that in Hell in a Cell? I thought that was the best match of that card.
Oh, yeah, but did it have to be the first match of their feud? I think you killed... That's one of the big problems. I mean... As far as money making, I know it's not the same model that we grew up with. There's no house shows anymore or anything. But even in terms of ratings, if you build something slow over time, let me just put it this way, okay? I'm not a big AEW mark like you, okay? I kind of like it, but it's but I like it. I don't hate it. I think Taz is doing great stuff over there. But anyway, you watch how they're booking Sting so far. And I hope and think they're going to continue to do this. They keep slowly teasing it. Slow tease. I had a couple of people say, "Well, why are they doing this? Why isn't he wrestling yet?" No. First of all, let me tell you guys a little secret, in case you don't know. You probably don't want to see Sting wrestle.
No, not at this age. What's he, 62 now? Is that something like that?
He's somewhere in
61, 60. Yeah. Okay.
And all right, so you probably don't want to see him. So what's the best thing to do? You just have him keep teasing, and every week Darby Allin's out there, and Darby gets the little rub because people who tune in to see Sting, what's he doing this week? Why does he keep staring at that guy up in the rafters? That other guy, Darby, and it helps get Darby over. So yeah, in contrast to what WWE's doing, they're kind of. But then again, I take that back because AEW has also jumped the gun a lot too. I mean, how many times you and I have talked about it? How many times they bring in who should be a guy who should be a hot heel, and then they put him. Brody Lee was a good example.
Right.
Murder Hawk is a good example. They worked him right in, and they lose the first match. Boom, the first major match. So, I mean, I guess they're guilty of it too, so I kind of take some of that back. But my point being is, if they slow build this Sting thing, it'll have legs. And the ratings, I know were bad last week, and we're going through the holidays, but the ratings will probably get around that million person mark, million viewer mark, just for that reason. I don't know. The whole model is different nowadays. The whole model is different.
to what Andy says, I'm not a gigantic AEW mark. I do appreciate the product. I appreciate it, and I've said this many times, is that it's a new company that came around when pro wrestling has been in a dark period for the last 18 years or 17 years, and we just needed more wrestling outside of just... There's been one major company. You can't really consider Impact, because Impact makes it very difficult to get their freaking TV show. Because they bounce from station to station. I know they were on Spike for a number of years, but how many cable companies get Spike? Or you have to have a certain package to get Spike. And then they went to like Pop, which is the former Weather Channel. And then they lost their contract there after, what, a year? Maybe two? Can I correct you? You can correct me if you'd like. Correct me.
Professor, the Pop channel is actually the former TV Guide channel, so it's worse than Weather Channel, okay?
Holy crap. I thought it was the Weather Channel, but...
No.
Well, we don't need the TV Guide channel anymore, because you can just click a button on your remote, the whole thing comes up. So, yeah. But have you ever seen Pop? Have you ever watched it? Because, like, I think the only non-soap opera show... Yeah, that show's on there?
It was started on there, yeah.
Oh, okay. See, I thought it was just like soap operas, because I was like, anytime I turn it on, like old episodes of General Hospital and such. So, I forgot where I was going with this. Wrestling dark period. So AEW was like a breath of fresh air, and I've said it, many times. I do appreciate it. I do like it. I think they've got a great roster. I think there's a lot of over-the-top gimmicks, but what wrestling company doesn't have over-the-top gimmicks? I mean, I think Sonny Kiss...
I like them. I like over-the-top gimmicks, though. I don't think we have enough of those in WWE sometimes.
I think you're joking. You've got to be surprised.
Dude, when you watch... And I'm not talking about, like, the Doink the Clowns and that kind, the parody gimmicks that they started coming out with, but... Even when we were kids, you watched wrestling. You had the Samoans, you had Jimmy Snuka, you had the Soul Man Rocky Johnson, you had the Muscle Man Tony Atlas.
Those weren't really over the top, though.
Yeah, personality.
They had personalities. They weren't over the top. Sonny Kiss or that's the only one I can think of right now. Jeez, I'm gonna look so bad.
No, I know what you mean. Orange Cassidy, Sonny Kiss.
Cassidy, yeah, exactly.
No, I know what you mean. The Luchasaurus, that kind of stuff. And I'm not hating
Marco Stunt.
I am hating on Orange Cassidy, but
no, I've grown, to like him somewhat. Not a lot, but I've gotten used to him a bit. But there's just a lot. But they have a great roster, and the whole Sting thing. I think that. Everybody who isn't a Sting fan, let's be serious. Who doesn't? I'm not really looking forward to seeing him wrestle, but I mean, he might come back and do one more match. That's fine. I guess they teased that him and Jericho are going to have a match. They've never wrestled each other before. I think. Yeah, Jericho, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. I think Jericho's at the point in his career he doesn't really even care anymore. So he's just, he's just. Not care, but he doesn't. He can do anything he wants, basically, and people are still going to buy his merch. You know what I mean?
He's at that next level. It's like he's at that level now. It's like, and I don't think it's that he doesn't care. I think he really puts his heart and soul into giving his fans everything he can and what he thinks they want. But when you get to that point where, how can I say you're not paying the dues anymore. It's almost like they're paying dues to you, and it's like you kind of can do whatever you want. Your vision gets a little blurry and cloudy too, I think.
Right.
Your focus gets off a little bit. But by the way, can I ask this question?
You can ask whatever you want.
Has Domino's replied to Jericho's tweet yet?
I was like, I couldn't believe that. And first off, he's complaining about Domino's.
Why is he ordering Domino's?
That's what I'm saying. There's no. Where's he live? Florida. He must not have any good pizza where he lives in Florida to be ordering Domino's. That's the one thing that because I could say. I mean, I saw on my wife watches a lot of Food Network, so I saw that there's a place in there called somewhere in Florida. And I know Florida's a big place. There's I know. I don't know exactly where he is, but I know there's a place that models itself after New Haven Pizza, which I'm a New Haven guy. I'm, born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. That's the best you can find. There's probably 100 great pizza restaurants. All right, maybe 50. All right, maybe I'm exaggerating with the 100. But there's probably about a good 50 places that are really awesome pizza restaurants. Why doesn't he just drive out of his way to go to that place instead of ordering from Domino's? That's like the worst crap on earth.
So I'm going to blame it on his kids. I'm going to say his kids probably ordered it.
I was going to say,
and then he had to step in, and that's probably why he was so butthurt. If it was he himself, he'd probably be like, "Oh, what the hell?" But it was his kids were probably upset, so he's probably like, "I'm going to tweet Domino's." You know what I mean?
And now they're going to sponsor Chris Jericho or AEW.
No, Papa John's, because Shaq owns Papa John.
Oh God! Have you ever eaten that place? Have you ever eaten that place?
Their garlic sauce is amazing, but the pizza's subpar.
See, I lived in a town called West Haven, Connecticut for a little while. There's like 3 or 4 Havens where I lived, all within like 5 minutes of each other. So I lived in a town when I was married to my first wife. Pizza, there was a really great pizza place there called Reno's, which is awesome. But then right across the street, there'd be like a Papa John's. Now, mind you, all the chain pizza places have like really extremely late hours, basically, because we're living near the university in New Haven. So all the ones that are near colleges, they have like ridiculous hours, and they open until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning on Saturdays because of bar hours and stuff. So it's one of those things where it's like you can order really late at night. So one night we got that shit. I just remember getting so damn sick off of eating that stuff off of Papa John's. And I just never touched it ever again. The crust itself was greasy, like the crust. It was just never.
That's good. That's good. But I will say this: it's like if you look at the prices at like Papa John's, or you're better off paying like maybe $2 extra and getting like a real legitimate New York style pizza.
New Haven,
New York. You got the new right.
I am about an hour and 20 minutes away from New York City, and I got to be honest with you, New York pizza is so overrated. But talking to Long Islanders, it's not that easy to convince them that New Haven pizza is better.
I think we were talking about how booking has changed. Not so much booking in a sense of who's going over or whatever, but in a sense of booking a card has changed. Right. And again, I just wanted to make a couple comments. I wasn't involved in the post pay-per-view episode last night because I hadn't seen the pay-per-view yet, or not in its entirety. I still haven't. But the Drew AJ Styles match, and I talked to you about this on the phone. The Drew AJ Styles match was a phenomenal match. No pun intended. Right. It really was a really good match, and that's why they call him phenomenal, right? Because he's just that guy. Yeah. And Drew's at the peak of his career right now. Then they did the cash in.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Not terrible in theory. In theory, the guy has the right to cash in whenever he wants. So you pick your spots, right? Ladder match, the guys are beat up. Smart move, right? But the thing is, it didn't add anything to that match. It just took away from that match for me.
It took away from the match. It just why do they keep making? They make Miz look stupid in a way. You know what I mean?
They're the comedy act, right? And Morrison and Miz are the comedy act, but then if that's the case, they shouldn't be pushed to the top of the card right now.
Right. And Miz is a former WWE champion, right? Was he WWE champion or was it?
He was one of their world titles, whatever they recognize.
They
change them up every few years. So.
Yeah, and then they'll probably 2 years from now they'll probably unite the two somehow when they decide to get rid of it.
I think with the house show business going down, I think being eliminated, I think it's going to happen. That's my opinion. I don't see why not, because you only got 2 nights a week to do shows now, and a third maybe for the pay per view. Barring NXT, that's a different company.
That's a whole different product, right? It's a whole different.
So you're going to have what 8? You're going to have 9 shows a month,
right?
And you're going to have a split roster. Why?
It doesn't make any sense. Plus, how many guys do they have sitting at home? Right?
Yeah.
And we don't even know who half these guys are because we haven't seen them on TV in probably 10 months, if not more, a year.
Well, just like the guy the other night on the NAWA pay-per-view who was humping the ring post. I still don't know who he is, and I want to know. He was awesome. Anyway, sorry.
First off, they didn't. If you remember correctly, they didn't even mention half those guys' names. Like,
the best was we're gonna get. The best was when Tony DeVito and the other guy, Tony T, would actually say, "I don't know who this is," but yet he's vying for the world title, for the heavyweight title, but you don't know who he is.
And half those guys half those guys in the NAWA show, they look like they picked up at the rest stop. Like, it's just like, hey, you look like you could get in a ring, and here's a pair of tights. It's like some of them didn't have a look to them whatsoever. Some of them looked like they were straight out of 80s indie shows, like with their like rock and roll and loud tights and stuff like that. Like they're from a fucking Striper video or something. It was just.
You know what that was?
Reference?
You know what that was? That was a dick move. Anyway.
Wow.
Did you get that? Did you get the joke?
I got the joke. I just find that really ridiculous.
Hey, we're gonna find out shortly if Dredd really watches the podcast or not after that. But anyway,
nobody. Let's be serious.
But no. And then I also wanted to say is on another note on that pay-per-view. Again, I didn't see it all. I saw a lot of people crapping all over the fact that Charlotte came back and won the tag titles. I don't know
why. Yeah, it's like. It wasn't the worst thing, actually. That was one of the. I actually walked out of the room during that because I had to get downstairs for something. But the fact my washer broke. Okay, so,
the way you looked, I don't know.
Sorry, my glasses are kind of irritating me. But anyways, I don't think that was like the worst thing that could have happened on the show. To be honest with you, I'll save that. The worst thing that happened on the show was the goddamn main event. Okay. Oh my God, was that horrible?
See, I haven't seen that yet, and now unfortunately I listen to too many people, so I probably won't see it. I did want to talk real quick about Roman and Kevin Owens.
Yes.
Like I told you, and I'm going to get heat for this, and I know somebody's going to call me out on this somewhere. I have tried like hell to invest in Kevin Owens over the years, and I just can never make the connection. Angle after angle, the Festival of Friendship and all that stuff. I think I came close, but I just could not make the full connection.
Are you talking like pre WWE too, like in Ring of Honor as well? Or
Well, I was gonna say the Scum stuff was pretty good. He did some good stuff with Scum, but I'm a Carino mark, so a lot of that was my fascination with Carino. And but this program he's done with Roman Reigns, and I don't know if it's officially over now or what, but his promo work opened my eyes to what everybody's been telling me all these years and what he's capable of. And it really came off, like using Jey Uso as kind of like the underling who gets abused because the foe wants to get the king's attention, so to speak. They did a masterful job of that over the weeks. I thought the match was great. I thought the beginning of the match when Kevin, all of a sudden Roman's there and he's all cocky. All of a sudden, they're getting ready to introduce Kevin Owens, and he just comes in and it's like Kevin Owens knows he's going against this big bad monster, so he's got to get in there and attack him when he's not looking and get it. And I thought that in the match itself, they told that story well. I don't know if the announcers really conveyed that well, but it was almost like this was his shot. He had to get in there quick. And the match was good. It was excellent. A lot of Jey Uso involvement. Probably a slight bit too much for me, although I thought his involvement made more sense. Miz's made sense for other reasons, but I didn't like it. Jey Uso made sense because he was physically involved in this feud. But again, it's just like, to me, and I'm overthinking it, I'm overbooking it in my mind, but to me, it went to show me that you have a locker room full of punk baby faces who are all afraid of Roman Reigns because nobody ever came out to even the playing field. Either that or Kevin Owens is just that hated that nobody wants to help him out.
One of the things that's been brought up by more other journalists, and Meltzer, Alvarez have said this, that why do none of the baby faces have friends? Do you realize that if they're attacking a baby face, nobody comes out and saves the baby faces? If a baby face attacks a heel, there's a shit ton of heels that come out.
It's reverse. Everything's backwards.
It makes no sense. But they were also like, oh, Kevin Owens burned that many bridges during his time in WWE because he's turned on so many people, he can't be trusted anymore. Which that kind of makes sense there. But the other thing was that Jey Uso interfered so much, he hurt his leg, and then here come a bunch of heels help him out, but nobody's helping Kevin Owens. That's another way to look at it. It just doesn't really make sense. The other way, at least there's an excuse about Owens turning his back as many times as he did on people. But it just doesn't make sense. All these heels come out and go ahead.
And it's like, I'm just trying to think. I try to think from I've been around the business a long time as a fan. I'm not trying to sound all like I'm in the business, but as a fan, I've been around it a long time. So I'm a little jaded. Stuff. I've seen most everything you can do. As have you, but I try to think back to when I was a kid, and if I were a kid in this time, and you have young children, so you understand.
Yeah.
If I had a kid in this time frame, and I saw Kevin Owens screw every friend of his over time, right. At what point do I say I can't get behind this guy because he's just going to turn bad again? I don't like him. You know what I mean?
The thing with that is, I just like wrestlers for their performance.
No, I know.
No, I mean, obviously, when you're a young kid, most of the young kids just like baby faces. And it's just like, once you get older, that's when you start to realize, oh, this guy's pretty good. Or, you know what I mean? You like who's the first heel that you ever got into?
That's a good question.
Yeah. It's interesting, right?
I can't, dude, I'm going to have to dig. I can't really.
I'll tell you mine. What do you think on that? Rick Rude for me. It was 1988, I believe, or 87, maybe 88. And I had been a wrestling fan for about 4 to 5 years at this point, because I think I discovered it about 1984. I didn't get fully invested in professional wrestling until it was about 1987, 1988. And once I went to my first show in 1988, oh my God, I was obsessed. So, but there was something about seeing Rick Rude wrestling, a preliminary wrestler, and the fact that I could see him, his performance was outshining a lot of other guys, and I was just like, damn, this guy's actually good. He's just bad. You know what I mean? There was just something about him. And then then I just started paying more attention to heels and their ring performance, as opposed to, you know, guys that can do drop kicks and arm drags and cheering.
It's hard for me to look back because, and I know I joke about it a lot, but I'm not, you know, I'm not a young kid anymore, and it's been a lot of years in between then and now. And I look at the business obviously totally different now than I did back then. But yeah, Don Morocco might be for me. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I liked him. Now at the time, I'm not sure I did, you know. But in my mind, thinking back, I'm like, yeah, I think I like Don, because I love Don Morocco when I look back on him now, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember Don Morocco getting, and you could I think you can find this on YouTube. He wrestles a match. It might even be a handicap match on one of the WWF shows, and he's eating a meatball hero during the match.
I actually just saw that the other day. Did you either send it to me or you posted it on YouTube?
I may have
on Facebook. Yeah, I saw that the other day, and it's really
I
really
did, you know what, and I'll tell you why. And this is another NAWA reference. I saw my friend Gary Reno post that. So shout out to Gary Reno, and I shared it from there because Gary's always posting all kinds of old WWF footage when he works out. He likes to watch that stuff. But yeah, Morocco was one of those guys because he was just so different. And, you know, a lot of times when we were young, the heel was just like this guy who gave dirty looks and grunted, and then he had a manager who talked all the dirty talk. You know, you had, whether it be the Samoans or, you know, whoever it may be.
One of the things about that match that you're talking about, that match, is right before it clips away is Lou Albano walking down the stairs, and then he falls off the stairs, the ring steps. It's fucking hilarious. That same video.
Well, you know, Albano, you know, not my favorite manager. Not that I don't like him. Not my favorite manager. But no, I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm saying he's not my favorite. You got to hear me out here, okay? I'll tell you that. All right. But, you know, Albano has been often copied and duplicated by many in the business. And, you know, he's a legend. He's a legend. And he and Morocco were gold together, without a doubt.
I think Albano's Herb Abrams era was the best, you know. I'm joking. I'm not being serious.
Thank God. I was going to say that was Andre the Giant's best era in wrestling.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm joking. But, you know, you can go in the captain's corner. It's just like an old fat Italian guy with just a Hawaiian shirt open. You got, you know.
Well, you know who else was good? Bruno. Bruno had some good years.
Yeah,
as did
Greg DeGeorge.
Greg DeGeorge.
John Tolis. So those are his best commentators there. You know. Well, I think that we should start a series breaking down Herb Abrams' UWF at some point.
You know, I don't. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't know a lot of. I mean, I know a few guys. You do. My buddy Chris Michaels, Bill Pierce. We could have him on. I mean, I'm dying to get Bill on the podcast anyway because he's an entertaining guy, intelligent guy, funny guy. Him and his partner, splendid Bobby C. We got to get them on.
Let's set it up, man. Yeah, absolutely.
But no, we could do it. We could do a whole series on UWF because, you know, we just talk about what's over with us, and probably like 95% of the audience wouldn't have a clue, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, you know, because the UWF did get a lot of rumblings. Was it earlier in the year when the Dark Side of the Ring came out on Herb Abrams? And I did really early in the year, maybe it was late last year. I did an interview with Jonathan Pomblom. I hope I got his last. I hope I pronounced it right. You know who this is? He's
the guy who wrote. Yeah.
He's writing the UWF book, and that was the first interview I've ever did. So it's not the greatest interview. Obviously, it's the first time I ever interviewed anybody. So it's not the greatest. The audio quality is not the best, but I think it's probably episode 4 or 5. I'd have to. You know, I'm going to share it to the page, but that's actually one of the most played episodes. That's actually the most popular episode of this podcast, because once Dark Side of the Ring came out, I just started spamming everywhere for days for that entire week, and it got picked up a lot. So that's actually a lot of fun because he that guy has done a lot of research for this book, and I really hope that it actually gets produced one day, because I'll buy a copy, because it's such an obscure topic.
There's people in the river, but the river's still flowing east. What those goes the planet, and not just the king, the downtown clean seal. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, and the sun still shines, 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 shines over the Thames. Yeah, Oregon Hills and Ensign, VCU crept up and lit the torch, huh? West Avenue honkies, don't forget the trains, still on north, cause it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, and the sun still shines, 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 shines over the Thames. Yeah, third per capita, third per capita, third per capita, next year, #1. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, and the sun still shines, 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 shines over the Thames. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, and the sun still shines, 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 shines over the Thames. Yeah.
Talking about heels, early on as a fan, heels who were over with me or who I marked out for, whatever you want to call it, who I was a fan of. Macho Man Savage was an early one too, because he was just so different.
Yeah, he had different ring gear. He had the flashy robes. I mean, I guess Flair had them, but this was like different. He was also the first person, I think, to have a female valet, or one of the first, at least. No, who was?
Oh, you talking about WWE or WWF? Okay, I was gonna say, because you already had Missy Hyatt. You already had.
That's true too. I don't even know. Right, I don't even know what I was thinking. You're right. My God. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But as far as WWF, that was not a common thing. I think you could be right on that one.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right in WWF. But you're right about that. I don't even know how Missy Hyatt and Sunshine and Baby Doll didn't even come into my head. But that's
Sunshine. Remember, Sunshine was like the big deal back in the day because
she was.
Yeah, and then what was the whole thing down in Texas and everything, and Sunshine was the big deal, and then there was the big feud, and who came out? Nicola Roberts, of course. Baby Doll came into that feud, and so but yeah, WWE didn't get on that bandwagon until later on, a little bit later.
I wonder why that is. I mean, WWE is a very strange product as it is, so it's just the way they book things is just very bizarre, and the way they handle things, it always seems to be like a watered down thing after somebody else has done it for years. That's one thing.
Well, can I make an analogy that you'd understand? Is it's like music, right? You have the underground and you have the mainstream, and at some point, punk rock was huge, forever. And it was always underground, and the mainstream didn't get it because the kids looked like dirtbags and looked crazy, and and the music was loud and fast. And then years later, you start getting bands like Green Day and stuff, and it hits the mainstream, and that's not punk, me and you, right?
No, they have a pop hook that ends up making it mainstream. You know what I mean? That makes it.
To me and you, that's not punk rock, but it's sold as such because it was birthed from punk rock, but it's watered down. So it's very similar, you know what I mean?
And then you have stores like Hot Topic where you can go and buy your punk rock clothing or your goth clothing to make, because in the mall prior to that, those things didn't exist. You just fucking, you had to fucking get your Doc Martens. You had to find just fucking ripped up jeans or whatever. Rip up your own jeans, whatever.
No, it's a good song. It's a good song. Speaking of Doc Martens,
well, you tell me.
Madball's Doc Martens. Just saying.
God, here we go.
Just saying.
All right,
but no. As a matter of fact, the mall. When I was a kid, I lived about an hour from the mall. I lived pretty far, but when I got to go to the mall on random occasion, it was always fun. It was kind of the gathering place before the internet, right?
Yeah.
And, you go to the store. There was one store way before Hot Topic. It was just an independent store. They had all these back patches on one part of the wall and all shirts on the other part. So you had Venom, Slayer, Metallica, Striper, and it was like Black Sabbath. And it was all, you always went in there. I mean, you weren't going to get 20 back patches, but you always wanted to see what the new one was. It was always so cool.
A lot of the stuff like that, you're right. There was always a store, and then there's another store similar. I think it's probably like another store just like that. They sold rock shirts. So they'd have some, once in a while, you'd see some, I wouldn't say it's obscure. Like they'd have a Sex Pistol shirt, which, or like a Ramon shirt. But those bands both had like kind of touched the mainstream in a little bit, especially at that point. They were like some of the first punk rock bands. So people knew about them. It was like the more underground stuff. Like you wouldn't find that stuff necessarily in the mall. But you'd go there, you'd find like metal back patches and stuff like that. And it was like, or you used to shop. You remember this place you used to shop? There was like a mail order catalog. You'd always order out of like Hit Parader or Circus, the Rockabilia. You'd get the big monster catalog. But then it'd take you like 3 months to get your fucking Beastie Boys shirt or your Slayer shirt that you ordered. It would take a year and a day to get to you. So, and you'd overpay because the shirts were like $30 or something like that, as opposed to paying $20 in the mall or something.
Yeah, but the cool thing was if you didn't I didn't live near. Well, I lived outside of New York City. Where I was a couple hours out. And I lived maybe an hour and a half from the Nassau Coliseum. So I never got to go to any real. My first concert was Black Sabbath and Wasp. I want to say in '85. But other than that, I never really got to go to concerts much. That was because my cousins took me. Right. But it was always cool to if you could buy that shirt with the tour dates on the back, even though you didn't get to the concert.
Yes. Yep.
That was always cool.
I know sometimes the what are they called? The like the department stores would occasionally get like a shipment of like rock shirts in there. I think I had like a Metallica shirt from there, or like Kicks, stuff like that. You'd find, or they'd be kind of like the bands that were like on the mainstream in the metal, but you wouldn't necessarily get the more obscure ones. But it was always fun. I think I don't think I ever told you what my first concert was. You ready for this? It's early 80s, New Haven, Connecticut, at the Coliseum. Was Frank Sinatra. Can I guess? Frank Sinatra. Okay. So, what were you going to say?
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No, I saw them like in the 1990s, probably like 94, 95.
I didn't know Sinatra had such a big Hispanic fan base, but that's...
Really? Interesting.
Not a Sinatra. You all right? You got ghosts over there or what?
No.
I'm not a big Sinatra guy, sorry.
No, it's because you're not Italian.
If I want to hear people talk through a song, I listen to rap, okay?
Oh, God. It's a year ago, a rap guy. I'm not necessarily. That's the... I like some, but it's, I've never really got fully invested in it. So, I think a lot of times when people were getting into, like, stuff like that, like kids around my age, like, I was getting into, like, REM and bands like that.
Well, you did the Safe White Boy thing. You went with Beastie Boys. I heard you already.
When did you hear that?
You just referenced Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, you did the Safe White Boy thing.
I thought they were funny, especially the first album. Or not the first album, but the album. It was funny. It was like mostly supposed to be comedy. And then, it just kind of, I bought every album after that for many, many years. And, I had some Public Enemy records. I hated hardcore rap, though. I'll tell you that.
Can I ask you, is the House of Pain record right next to your Beastie Boys records, or?
I never owned that.
Sorry.
Never owned it.
Is that John Cena figure behind you?
No, that is just incredible.
Sorry.
Anyway, it's autographed, all right, from the time I met him, but we're not going to get into that story. You were talking about rap. Jesus Christ. By the time like a House of Pain came around, I was into groups like Helmet and stuff like that, and Therapy and noise bands and stuff like that. You don't? No? You're not into that stuff?
Yeah, I'm not honest to guy. I just never took the time. I might dig it. I just never took the time to really get into those bands,
Well, after like the third Helmet record, you really don't need to. The first one's just completely noise rock. It's really good, but it's just unorganized. So anyways, professional wrestling.
Well, I forgot. Yeah, we were talking about that.
This is a pro wrestling podcast. I don't think we talked. Well, for the most part, we haven't talked about pro wrestling for about a good half an hour. I'm trying to think of what else that we got a few minutes left before we wrap it up. So, Yeah, last night's pay-per-view, we covered pretty much the bullshit.
Those are the two matches I wanted to talk about, were the two ladder match title matches. But like I said, I didn't see a whole lot of the pay-per-view otherwise. But again, I just thought the matches were really, really good. Maybe had, maybe they added too many elements to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like the women's title match, the Sasha and the other one, Carmella. I guess Carmella's a heel now. Sasha's a babyface. It just, I never cared about Carmella. I thought this was one of the best matches of the night, surprisingly. I was surprised, and that's really funny because it's like the last couple pay-per-views, I thought Sasha had the best match of the night. And I was never a Sasha fan. So I guess it's kind of saying something that she's been improving doing that stuff, being able to put on some of the best matches of the night. There were 3 pay-per-views this past week, and I got to say Friday. Ring of Honor's pay-per-view was the best of the evening, of the whole entire weekend. I watched that, the NAWA and the, what's the one that we're just talking, in the WWE. I gotta say the second WWE one was the second best of the entire weekend. so I guess, should I even say it? The NAWA was atrocious for that big comeback.
I'm going to give you a couple positives in there because I know there's a lot of people.
Oh, please do.
No, listen, because I know there's a lot of people who are just having a lot of fun, as we do.
Mm-hmm.
As human beings, we like to kick people and things when they're down. We like to stress the negative, right? And we like to call. And we like to call people out when we feel that they're doing something negative or not up to par. That's just the way we are. We don't. I did actually enjoy the. I thought it was too much for one show. They should have split it up, but I did enjoy the Brody tribute for what it was. In a virtually empty arena during COVID, you couldn't do a whole lot. I get that.
Right.
And then, of course, the Hercules Hernandez one, because Hercules Hernandez, to me, is a guy who, like, I remember him from World Class. I remember him from Mid-South. I remember. So his work before WWE was outstanding. I mean, he was just a beast.